If I rule the world, thank you. Every day would be like the first day of spring, that every voice would have. But after the assassination of Dr. King, they wanted someone who could communicate. Somewhere my name came up. They tried everything and everybody, but nobody could get to the people because they weren't saying anything before Dr. King was assassinated, which was a shame. Why should a man have to die for something that he should never have to fight for? His dignity and his rights. But they called me to Washington, D.C., and I was able to speak to the people and get them to calm down and go back and think it over and take the second thought. I enjoy doing that. I don't see no color. I'm colorblind when it comes to humanity.
You've no doubt heard a lot of buzz about the new movie that chronicles the life of the legendary James Brown. But you might not have heard that a local documentary was a major resource for the producers of the film Get On Up. Here to tell us more about that James Brown documentary is attorney Thomas Hart, the president of On the Potomac Productions. Mr. Hart, everyone's talking about James Brown, but you were one of the first to tell the story of James Brown. So why James Brown, why now? And tell us the history of this production.
Well, I'm just a big James Brown fan from growing up here in D.C. Of course, he loved Washington, D.C., and has spent a lot of time here at the Howard Theater, but also in the community of Washington, as the piece that you just showed. He helped quell the riots. So I was sort of just an observer to those things. But then he got locked up in jail. And as an attorney and someone involved in music and entertainment, I felt that it was important to project the positive side of James Brown's legacy. And so I started working with Dick Clark and Casey Kasem and Little Richard and Michael Jackson and others to tell James Brown's story. I was able to get exclusive access to Mr. Brown while he was in jail, thanks to a number of people in South Carolina, including Lee Atwater, who started Red Hot and Blue here in Roslyn. So I worked with Mr. Brown very closely, and Dick Clark gave me his greatest archives, the performance footage of James Brown. So we made a really compelling story about James Brown's legacy and what he's done for the community and what he's done for the nation. And guess what? 6 weeks after our film was released, they let James Brown out of jail. So we accomplished our goal, but then I continued to update it. James Brown unfortunately died in 2006, so we updated it then. And just recently we updated it for this release. This is the 2014 edition. And we were able to get Kevin Hart, who's one of the funniest guys in Hollywood. He and I worked together on a segment, a comedy segment with Eddie Murphy and Sinbad and Sherman Hemsley. Kevin Hart is featured in the film. He does a James Brown cape routine. And then we also interviewed Aretha Franklin this year, the Queen of Soul. So we have the Queen of Soul and the Godfather of Soul in our documentary, James Brown, the man, the music, and the message.
So this originally came out a few years ago, and then you're saying that the producers of Get On Up saw this and thought, well, this would be a great feature film as well. So it maybe was a precursor to what you're seeing out in theaters now. Oh,
no question about that. The storyline in the film, the feature film, is very similar to the storyline in our documentary. And the scenes that they highlight, James Brown being arrested in the truck, James Brown showing up, Mick Jagger on stage, James Brown quelling the riots, James Brown going to Vietnam. You see that in the documentary, but James Brown tells those stories out of his own words. And we have the footage, the actual footage of James Brown showing up Mick Jagger. We have the footage of James Brown on stage at the Boston Garden. So if you want to see the real James Brown, check out this documentary that is going to air nationwide this weekend on television. It's a television special. It comes on at 1 o'clock on Sunday here in this market and all across the country.
And you'll be able to do a watching party of this as well here locally at U Street Spence Chili Bowl, right? Tell us a little about that.
Yeah. James Brown frequently went to Ben's Chili Bowl. In fact, we just recently packed house premiere at the Lincoln Theater right next to Ben's Chili Bowl. They were dancing in the aisles and dancing in the streets. So we decided we'd have a watch party on Sunday at 1 o'clock at Ben's Chili Bowl, open to the public. And come on, let's make it funky.
So you can be there and watch it, or you can get your own. It's $14.95 if you want to hear James Brown in his own words.
Yes, and his own music. The greatest performances ever done by James Brown are on this film. And you can get it at otpvideo.com or call us on our 800 number. We're based here in D.C. You can have it this weekend if you'd like.
Fantastic.